Hi everyone, today's the last day at AILA. We're about to check out. We already packed everything up, but right before we leave, we want to share one last update with everyone. Today's main live session, we're going to be covering what Customs is going to do, what they're doing and what they're going to do. We had some amazing panelists come share. That's one of the best things about AILA conferences. And this happens when government officials from the customs come over, from USCIS come over, from ICE when they come over, from Department of Labor, the consulate officers, they come, the top dogs at AILA, the AILA liaison officers sharing what they have accomplished, Supreme Court rulings. But today we're mainly focusing on customs, CBP, because I think that impacted with a lot of other things that's going on, especially the World Cup, right? For example, the amount of people who are entering the country, the different visas that they have to specially get that was newly invented just for this event and what we're preparing for the Olympics next year and in the future. So there's a lot of things that we're going to be covering about customs. Now, of course, as we always do, if you have any questions regarding immigration, I'm here. My name is Joseph. I'm a managing partner here at Tsang Associates. I'm a certified immigration law specialist, and I'm here to answer your questions. Now, we mainly do business and family immigration law. We don't do removal defense. But if you have any questions that I generally know about, I'm happy to share with that as well. So, one of the big updates that we're seeing is that Customs is going to roll into facial recognition. Imagine a future when you cross through the border and when you come in, no longer waiting in line. As you just walk, it's just facial recognition and you will be admitted. They're trying to roll that out starting in Seattle and a couple other airports, mainly for the global entry people, right? So right now with global entry, in the past, I think 7-8 years, they've already rolled out the system, so it's good enough where you just take your passport, you scan it, and you're automatically in. And all the times that people have been using the global entry, they've been using the facial recognition, right? You every time you come in, you scan, and then you get admitted. The officer says hi, and you come in. Well, all they do is advance the equipment a little bit better, so that when you come in, they just immediately scan you. It's already fine. You don't even need to scan your passport anymore, right? So that's what they're gonna try to roll out. And then once the global entry really does start working, then the people with other green cards might be able to do that, and then eventually for everybody else. Now, what does that mean? And why is it so important to do that? Because the demand has been insatiable regarding the number of people wanting to come into the country for the past 10 years. Every airport has been at max capacity. More airlines wants to add flights and add flight paths, but the bottleneck has been the airports and the customs. It's not just the people who are at the towers, traffic controllers trying to bring the airports in. It's not that Boeing cannot create enough airplanes to bring passengers. It's not that airlines, there's an insufficient amount of airlines that want to be able to bring people. It's not that the demand of people want to buy tickets. None of that is true, even though they're true in their own little small way. A big bottleneck is actually customs. Why? Because every single person that gets admitted into the United States, even domestically at that, there's supposed to be screening. The flight control, the flight decks, the TSA agents, the CBP officers, they're supposed to be screening people, and they're supposed to be screening 2 minutes of in-depth questioning. And even that is already very little for national security purposes, right? Imagine somebody coming in, only 2 minutes to decide, terrorist or not terrorist. 2 minutes. But in reality, what have we been experiencing for the past, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years? Most of the time, the questioning is less than 10 seconds. 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 45 seconds is already, oh my gosh, they've been, interrogating me. They're racial profiling me for asking me 45 seconds of questions. Think about the questions they're asking. Where did you come from? Where are you going? What do you do for a job? When's the last time you come? How long are you staying? A lot of these questions, when you answer, 10, 15 seconds, you're done. But they're supposed to be 2 minutes. And then if it's beyond that, then you're supposed to be referred to the deferred inspection. And then at not deferred inspection, at secondary. And even as secondary, sometimes the question is actually only 5-10 minutes long, right? And so the officers themselves cannot ask enough questions when they should ask enough questions. But with this type of screening, with the rollout of global entry in the past 10 years, allowing people to enter and moving more people to it and more countries of people to do it. Imagine if every single ESTA applicant from around the world, visa waivers, if all of them comes with global entry and facial recognition, it would make things a lot faster. Now, I don't foresee this happening within the next 5 years, but potentially in the next 10. That way, airports don't have to build out more capacity. That way, CBP agents don't have to double or triple in size using AI technology, using facial recognition. They will be able to adjudicate a lot more people better. And then the problematic cases, those are people that they can spend 2 minutes on, 5 minutes on, 10 minutes on, right? So that's the stuff that they're working on. It's already starting to roll out. Things are becoming a lot faster. In the past few years, we're already seeing they got rid of the stamps, right? Everything is digitalized, so I-94 directly online. So now all the CBP across the airport, 40,000 people flying in, no longer need to waste ink. Just the ink and the stamp alone cost thousands, right? Every month for all the different airports and border. Facial recognition is going to be a huge advance. Now, that's just with customs. We're going to talk about FIFA. We're going to talk about World Cup. We're going to talk about Olympics. We're talking about the new B1, B2 category. We're going to talk about influencers and content creators and how customs adjudicate them right after the series of questions we're going to get.
Well, someone says they'll also be able to surveil us easier.
Absolutely. For your information, customs actually have more authority than FBI and CIA in this one respect. If FBI and CIA wants to check your device, your phone, your computer, your smart glasses, your iWatch, they need to get a warrant, right? Well, technically, right? Technically. Customs do not. When you're going through the airport and going through land border, they have automatic permission to inspect everything. Now, if there are confidential attorney-client privilege information, those need legal counsel from CBP to get permission to review it and to use it as evidence. But generally speaking, if they want to just swipe your device and review everything, if you walk through customs, they have a plaque that says you are granting them that authority. So customs do have certain authorities that everybody else does not. And that is already far more scary than facial recognition. I mean, anywhere other country, the UK, China, a lot of places, CCTV everywhere, right? So other countries have far more surveillance compared to the US, but at border security, they can swipe your device, which is, I think, something a little bit more concerning for most people that most people don't understand.
Yes, emphasis on technically.
Technically, yeah. I mean, yeah. All the documentaries we watch with FBI and CIA and all the stuff that they do. But yes, technically they're supposed to get a judicial warrant.
Okay, so oh, hello. Hello, Elite. Okay, so feel free to add more questions in the chat. I'll take note. But I want to talk about the World Cup, because CBP also, they were really happy with how World Cup went.
Right. I was actually worried, and a lot of attorneys were worried, and a lot of people around the world were worried if World Cup was even going to happen, if FIFA was going to pull out, if immigration crackdown is going to be. I mean, think about all the worst case scenarios that could have happened. Entire teams not being able to play, not being able to be admitted. The Iran team not being able to even cross the border, right? Last permission, they had to be stationed in Tijuana and then travel by bus. That was already a pretty big nightmare, but that could have happened to a lot of people in a lot of countries. We saw a couple of referees that couldn't come, but in the whole, it's just a small individual cases, certain family members that couldn't make it to watch the game and stuff like that. But these are small little hiccups compared to entire teams or entire team managers.
And yes, feel free to ask about marriage-based immigration policies.
Yeah, or even worse, being detained by ICE. Think about not being let in is one thing, having visa refused is one thing, but being detained by ICE, being beaten, those were nightmare situations that the world was watching for, or fans being detained. Those would have been a nightmare situation. But with the huge demand from around the world of people flying in, so far we haven't seen any major hiccups. Customs were able to process everybody. A lot of people were able to kind of come in. And we talked a lot about content creators and influencers. A lot of people flew in, they make content, they post it. A lot of people were worried that their visas will be banned, their visas, because technically you're not supposed to be coming in to be able to be filming these things and making money off of it, which we're going to go into technical detail about it. But I'm going to answer a few more questions now.
Yeah, we did see that Somalian referee who was...
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. There were small little hiccups here and there, but it wasn't something that would derail the entire tournament, right? Referee couldn't come in, they were able to find a substitute. A team manager, a family member that couldn't make it to watch the game, it was sad, it was unfortunate, but it didn't throw off the tournament where something was completely unfair, right? The Iran situation is probably the most unfair, where one team was at a huge disadvantage. But luckily, at least, it was Mexico, United States, and Canada, 3 different countries hosting, not just one country. So I think, in the future, if the US ever holds these major tournaments again, it might be a good idea to always do it as a North America treaty together. This is an area of law that have changed dramatically just in the past few years. And we're talking 180-degree shift, right? So let's just go back to some of the fundamentals that has not changed yet. As a tourist visa, as a tourist or an ESTA holder, visa waiver, when you come into the country, you cannot work, right? So that's bottom line. If you want to work paid, you need to get a proper visa. E2, P1, O1, there's so many different visa categories. If you want to work, you're supposed to get the visa. But for a majority of the world, people don't get work visas. They use their tourist visa or ESTA waiver to fly into the country, especially in times like these where there's international events. In the past 5 years, 10 years, content creation, influencers, full-time podcasters became a job description that the world has never seen before, right? In the past, you need to be represented by a studio and they send a journalist to come. Now, anybody with a phone can somehow become a YouTube star, a TikTok star, Instagram star, and that is their livelihood. Is that permissible under the tourist visa guideline? It's a yes and a no. And depending on how you answer, and depending how you position yourself, and depending on what the officer thinks, your visa could get denied, and you might be returned to your home country with a 5-year ban not to return. And that we have seen over the years. So that, I think everybody knows. However, the shift recently has become much more, I want to say, realistic. Just, I want to say 2 years ago, when we were talking with customs officer about it, the majority of the understanding was still, if you come into the country, who is paying you? Like, right, you are a tourist, but nobody in the US is paying you. You are filming, but it's your home country that's paying you. And so who's paying you was the most important thing in the past, because you're not replacing a US worker. With the advancement of international transactions, Zelle, PayPal, it is so easy for a US worker to be paid to do the same thing. Who's paying you does not become the most important thing anymore. And there was a big Nike case where the person came in, they were filming. Nike was the brand, but it was the overseas Nike that was paying for them, but they were still filming. Was that okay? Was that not okay? There was a big fight over it. Eventually, it got resolved. But the issue before was who's paying you. Now, the argument is, well, you could have hired a US influencer, a US content creator. You didn't have to hire these overseas people to come in to film. Who's paying you doesn't matter that important. Even if it's a US brand, even if it's a foreign brand, it doesn't matter anymore. The location becomes most important. The event becomes the most important thing. If you're flying in for the full intent purpose of coming to record the World Cup, the Olympics, the fashion show, and you're getting paid abroad, the brand is abroad, if your job, if your profession is a full-time influencer or content creator or streamer, and you're doing this, and that's your livelihood. The US event is the product, and you should have gotten a work visa. That is now the understanding of the officer. Now, between content creation and influencer, there's also a big split, and now they're sophisticated enough to understand that. If you're an influencer, you're coming here to promote a product or a service, and you're getting paid for that. If you're content creation, if you're here, that could be your hobby. You could be like, hey, you know, I love soccer, and then you're enjoying soccer. If it's a lifestyle, that may or may not be work. It could be your hobby. It could just be, you know, what you're interested in. But if you are one of those content creators that you get paid hundreds of thousands and millions from sponsors, from YouTube, from all the, and you just go around the world doing it, and US is a destination, again, that is a product. Now, if it's just once a year, once every 2 years, and it's only for a short duration, that might be overlooked. But if you are constantly coming in once every 2, 3, 4 months, you're staying for a couple of weeks, you're going to these major events, and you're getting paid big bucks, sorry, O1 was the right application for you. You get paid so much, USCIS needs a cut of that, right? So you need to apply for the proper visa to be able to get this. So content creation, little bit more better according to customs. Influencers, right? Brands are paying you to promote a product or service, and you're coming here to show your skincare product at, you know, FIFA World Cup. Maybe not so good. So influencers definitely don't get as good of a rep, and the players, right? The family of the players, they created a special visa category for O1 trainer, for B1, B2 trainers. They're coming with everybody to train. That is technically work, right? That should have been under O1 category, right? Or O3 category. But because that process was so long, so complicated, they just created a designated B1, B2 category for you're the trainers and it's okay to come. So it's an evolving world. Customs understanding of this new digital age is changing, and that has been a large success for customs and gearing up for the Olympics, which is going to be actually far bigger and more complicated than what we saw here. So it was a perfect training ground.
So let's say someone wants to be completely safe, right? Yeah. Where is the line between permissible, I'm posting on Instagram, and non-permissible B1, B2 activity?
For a majority of the population in the world, it's not going to be a problem, right? Most people don't get paid. Most people don't monetize their Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube channel. And even if they do, you know, a couple dollars, couple $100, it's a tangential thing. It's part of your lifestyle, not a big deal. Most people have full-time jobs, and they have maybe a YouTube channel, if that, right? So majority of people, it's not a problem. We're talking about maybe the top 1% of content creators who this is their full-time job. They have tons of equipment, they have a huge following, they get paid a lot. If that is the situation, then you need to draw a big question mark. Should you apply for the proper visa? Second question is, where are you going? How long are you going to be there, and why you're going, right? So you might be coming in, and if you're here for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you're coming for your honeymoon, you just got married, and it just so happens the World Cup is also here, and you're attending one day and you have one ticket, it's probably you're traveling, right? The US is not going to ban every single content creator just because they have a channel from ever coming to the US and invalidating their tourist visa. But if they come in, they have, you know, 10 tickets to the World Cup, they have all the gear, they're getting paid, they get asked, and they scan your phone, and you have all this itinerary, you're meeting up with all these different people, and you're doing all these interviews. It looks like this is a work trip. Looks like you're getting paid. Looks like you're dedicated and focused on that. Where are you coming in? As a tourist visa? That becomes a big, big red flag, right? And so, again, officers denying visas, revoking visas, giving 5-year bans is still probably less than 1% of all travelers.
At all.
But if you're doing this as your profession and you're constantly doing it and you've been warned about it, once you get that 5-year ban, it is going to be extremely painful to try to get another visa and to get a waiver and come back in. Not impossible. On our YouTube channel, we've definitely done a lot of success stories on how to get waivers if that happens to you. We have several clients who have been doing that and especially the past 2 years, and I foresee in the next 2 years, more bans will happen. Maybe improve that 1% to maybe 2%, but that's because majority of the world, they don't want to go through the normal visa process. For US companies, they don't want to hire and spend that much effort getting the proper visa. So somebody else from a different country, just a tourist visa flying in, able to do the work, gladly pay that, easy transaction, easy logistics. But customs, they are becoming more sophisticated in understanding this, and they have increased the denials.
Hello to our viewers from France. The petitioner has a misdemeanor, first-degree trespass, and third-degree theft. Can you handle our case?
What? Okay. If it is a non-immigrant visa trying to come into the country, it is possible to get a 212 waiver. And so it depends on what kind of visa you want to come into the United States. Yes, there's those criminal backgrounds, but 212 waiver can waive almost everything. And those things sounds like it's not severe enough that is a permanent bar. So that's the good news. If it's a green card petition, you're trying to get a green card, you will need a waiver, right? And that becomes a little bit more tricky. The 601 waiver is a little bit longer, 3 years sometimes. And you want to prove good moral character, but also extreme hardship. So it depends on the situation. Hopefully you have a spouse or a parent that is a green card holder or a US citizen. So that is what you want to look into.
And they said the petitioner has these misdemeanors. Does that change anything?
Oh, the petitioner. Okay. Yes. So in that case, it sounds like it's a family-based petition. Sounds like it is a green card situation, not a non-immigrant visa. And the petitioner having these things does not disqualify the beneficiary. Adam Walshak doesn't really touch on those two. Adam Walshak gives pretty much a permanent bar. I rarely see those cases get approved. We know a lot of the USCIS officers that do adjudication for these type of cases where the petitioner has criminal records, but it is not one of those. Now, what it does affect it is, does the guy or girl, the petitioner, have a steady job, right? Because if you have these crimes, if you have a steady job, and how long has it been a relationship? Because what the government will do in these type of applications is they will see, is the beneficiary under threat? And should we protect the beneficiary from the petitioner in case there's any harm? And if there is, then they might deny the case. So if the relationship is strong and good enough, if the person has been, improved and reformed and holds a steady job and a lot of good letter recs, potentially that case could still go forward. So I would definitely want to do a consultation. It is $250. You can book a consultation on our website. It doesn't have to be with me. A lot of people can do it, but happy to do it as well. But just make sure you say you only want to speak with Joseph. That way our media team can reach out.
Do you have an opinion on VAWA for initial applications 2021?
Do I have an opinion on it? I think it is extremely politicized. I think it is wonderful that VAWA exists. Our firm existed at a time when VAWA didn't exist yet. And so when it came out, we rejoiced. We helped so many people over the years with VAWA. I think it is wonderful. I think it protected a lot of people, mainly women and children, but a lot of times some men as well. And I think, of course, over the years there was fraud, but there was fraud in almost every single category. And I think it is right now heavily politicized and a lot of pressure on adjudicating officers. So when you do an initial application, you definitely want to go above and beyond to help the officer adjudicating your case, because they don't want to get fired, right? So, they're going to approve your case, but their name is going to be forever tied to your case. So help them help you, help them help you.
What are the red flags they see during marriage-based green card interviews?
There's a lot. AILA has a list. If you search it, you'll see a lot. So AILA was able to get this list from USCIS. Now these lists are constantly updating and changing, but a lot of these are also common sense. But here's a couple for your reference. Do the two people speak the same language, right? And you'll be surprised. A lot of people actually don't. Do they share the same address within a 50-mile radius, right? If there's two different addresses, and if you do a background check on both people, if you see, oh, there's two different addresses and it's over 50 miles away, well, Do you really live together? If there are multiple residential addresses, if socioeconomics are way too far off, right? One person has a master's or PhD, the other person didn't even graduate junior high, right? Or socioeconomically, somebody is like the Prince of Nigeria and the other person was homeless, right? If the wealth disparity is far too large, socioeconomically, culturally, and what's that word called? Superficially. I've seen so many officers say, if I see an application with no pictures, I RFE that. Now, that might be fair, but why do officers want pictures? And lots of pictures, not just same pictures, same day, same outfit, same hair. They want pictures throughout the course of the relationship because they want to really see, well, whether it's not AI generated. And second, the transition and the growth of the couple. And also, do they look like they are a fit? If the guy, no. Well, let me just put it this way. We all judge different couples. And if they just don't look like a good match, you kind of get a good feeling of it, right? Like one is way too good looking for the other. There might be a problem. Just a red flag. Just a red flag that invites further questioning, right? So these are some of the things that's most common. Obviously, they use big data. Certain ethnicities, when they match it together, it's just like less than 1%. Where this ethnicity, this country of nationality, and this country nationality, less than 1% chance. If it's less than 1% chance, it's a red flag. Anything that's less than 1% is a red flag. Same-sex marriages used to be a red flag when the Supreme Court first struck down DOMA. Now it isn't, right? Because officers are well-trained. I could go so much into that, but this is a long list of things for you to consider and think about.
Is $500 a standard charge for a lawyer to accompany someone to an interview, just for the interview?
$500 to $5,000 is what I have seen, and it completely depends on what the service entails. The $500 mark is definitely at the super lowest end, and those are some of the attorneys where they are literally in the room. They finish one client, and then you come in and you feel you want that safety net. You pay them sometimes in cash, and they walk with you into the room together. I spoke on a panel about this just this Wednesday, and we were advising a lot of the attorneys to reconsider if they are doing that, to be hired same day or the day before or even a week before without knowing a case is almost close to being malpractice. Sure. Right? If you are an attorney representing a client, you don't know their case, you accept monetary compensation, and you go with them into a room, what value can you really do to help them? You know? And there's only so many things you can do. And I could go a lot into details about this, right? Because if the client says something that's true or not true, as the attorney, you don't know if you don't know the case. Then if they said something wrong and you were there, you validated their claim, and now they get in trouble. Now you are under liability. Is that the smart move as an attorney? Now, for clients who are paying $500, is it worth it or not worth it? The attorney, when they go with you, they can only sit in back of you, and they can really only call for a supervisor when the interview goes awry. But if they don't do anything, they sit behind you for 10 minutes, it was a clean interview, then, you know, what did they really do for you other than your emotional comfort, right? And if they don't know your case, they don't know how to really help, right? Now, that's the $500 mark, right? The $5,000 mark, well, that's also very possible too, because what if your case is 3,000 page long and the appearance attorney doesn't know your case and they need to spend a long time to review everything and coach you for 10 sessions before you go to the interview, right? So there's so many, you know, things, but between 500 and 5,000 is the range. It depends on really what you need. And there's so much I could share about this. We work with so many different appearance attorneys. I go to appearance on certain occasions, on certain cases. So just for your reference.
Have you seen an AOS for the mother of the citizen be approved without an interview lately?
Yes.
Okay. Does one petty offense conviction, is that okay for a good moral character within the statutory period?
I believe so because there's called a petty theft exception. Now, with the new memo that came out last year regarding good moral character, both for the naturalization and adjustment of status, and in this case, change of status and everything else, petty theft exception, even if it applies, that no longer is sufficient for you to prove you have good moral character. It proves, statutory wise, you are no longer, statutory wise, if you have a misdemeanor, if you have a petty theft, you are no longer deportable, so you can keep your green card potentially, but that doesn't mean necessarily you have enough good moral character to get the citizenship or to get the green card if you committed the misdemeanor while you're in your non-immigrant status, right? So petty theft exception is still a thing. It is statutory. You could argue that legally, but officers have a lot of discretion and they might not approve the green card or citizenship, and you should still do your absolute best to prove your good moral character package.
I am an LPR, just renewed it, but I have a minor DWI, non-aggravated, from 8 years ago. Can I be taken by ICE?
I don't believe ICE will want to take you. Now, let me back that up. ICE is generally not going after green card holders, especially people who their green cards haven't been revoked. They don't have enough bandwidth to really focus on that. They are under pressure to detain anybody from customs with drug offenses. We've definitely seen that with our clients and also with other people as well. But, other things that are not drug offenses, not manslaughter, unless, if customs stop you, if other sheriffs stop you, if you're already in jail and the deputized government officials pass you over to ICE and they see that you are under mandatory detention, then they will get you. But if you are thinking, oh, I have this conviction, my green card is still intact, nobody has taken it away from me, will I suddenly go after you? The chance of that is extremely low.
I have, so I've been on admin processing for 2 years. Every 3 months we send an inquiry, check on CEAC, says expired. Is that an error? I sent them everything they need, all the required documents, and the status was refused for the past 2 years.
I actually don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I know my team knows. So if you're looking on our website, I think Gabby would probably know that. Kathy would probably know that. Amy, Shiloh will probably even know that. There's a lot of people who do these cases on a day-to-day basis. These type of glitches, I really don't know.
What was that list you mentioned where you can see all the red flags USCIS looks for marriage-based green cards?
Galen, are you able to pull?
Yeah, let me take a look.
Galen will find it and we'll let you know in a bit.
If my father signed voluntary departure but is being kept in ICE custody, can I file habeas corpus?
Habeas corpus. Can you file it after voluntary departure has been signed and not released? That fact pattern hasn't come across my desk yet. I don't believe so. But what other option do you have? Right? If it's, hopefully it's not more than 3 weeks or 4 weeks after voluntary departure is signed. But a couple months, I really hate you to spend attorney money to go through a case to do a habeas corpus. My recommendation is prepare it, use ChatGPT, prepare it, go to ICE detention and say, look, we're ready to leave. If not, we're going to file this, and really put the pressure on them. And potentially, you, the nonprofit legal representative, can potentially get ICE to move the needle. We've seen people with voluntary departure get stayed for an extra 1, 2, 3 weeks, but that's just because it's just chaotic to schedule flights. And I coming to AILA conference, I was working with some nonprofits, and it's not just ICE. The home country has to accept them. to go into their detention facility to rehabilitate them. And that's something a lot of people don't think about, right? It's not just ICE holding them, but the home country has to receive them, and they have to arrange the flights, and they have to do a lot of other things as well. So, ICE can push back and saying it's not us, right? So there's no point suing us about it. 2-3 weeks, I think, is unfair, unreasonable, but given the circumstance in the world, there's only so much they could do. If it goes on for months, I mean, what other option do you have?
Okay, looks like that AILA doc is for AILA members, so it's behind us.
Oh, it's behind a spam wall.
Yeah.
I hate to say join AILA just to get it, but since it's so important, what we're gonna do, and Galen will remind me of this, we'll make a dedicated video on this so you could be on our YouTube so you can see it, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
My husband's on a green card. He applied for my adjustment of status. My interview's next month. I came on a tourist visa, was on status. We had like a cultural wedding. Any thoughts?
Can you run the fact pattern?
B1, B2,
Uh-huh.
AOS,
Uh-huh.
to green card. And the husband's on a green card.
Husband is on a green card, and then now you already AOS'd?
Yes, and their interview is next month.
Okay.
F2A.
Okay, we just had a client that did this last week. I'm assuming your question is, does the new memo apply to you, the May 22nd memo, with regards to if you do a tourist visa and you are now adjusting, how would that affect the officer's adjudication of your case? And part of the 4 questions that you really want to answer is, why did you choose to do adjustment status in the U.S. as opposed to being abroad? Was this premeditated? Did you lie to an officer? What advantage does the U.S. get? Is there a legal reason why you couldn't leave the U.S.? These are the things that you want to think about and to prepare for. We had a lot of clients since May 22 till now that have already gone through the interviews. Some get asked these questions, some don't get asked these questions. Some ask these questions, you answer appropriately, and it's fine. The most important thing is you don't want to show you deceived the customs officer. You came into the country as a tourist. You did do tourist things. If you went to Vegas, go to Vegas, right? If you said you want to go to Vegas, whatever tourist thing you were going to do with your husband, do that. If the priority date changed during the time that you were here, and that was a new thing, unexpected, and then you file adjustment status, you want to be able to explain that. You want to be able to explain why your spouse, your green card holder, couldn't leave to go back to your home country to do the adjustment of status with you. The processing time would be so long. You want to explain some of these fact patterns to the officer. We spent a lot of time at the conference talking about this. I taught on it personally this Wednesday. It's still going forward. A lot of cases are still getting approved. We haven't seen a case get denied due to the memo specifically, although I have heard a panelist say they got a case denied through just random discretion, right? But didn't cite this memo specifically. They're preparing a lawsuit for it. But generally, if you have a good case, it should still be fine. Our case got approved. So far, every single case from the May 22nd till now, the adjustment status interviews, the FQAs got approved. Hopefully that's helpful. We made a lot of the videos on this on our YouTube channel. You can feel free to check it out. And if you have additional specific questions or you want to do a mock interview prep, I'm the officer, ask you questions, happy to do that as well. 250 consultation.
They've been married for 3 years.
Great. That's additional proof.
Okay. Oh, so for this father who's currently being detained since June 3rd, he was arrested in a house raid but was not the intended target.
Okay, June 3rd, 20 days, and that's not even including, when he signed the voluntary departure, right? So give yourself maybe 3 weeks. Again, it's not just ICE. It's ICE, it's detention center, it's the home country, it's the logistics, it's the paperwork. There's a lot of things.
Other than tax, bank statements, bill, photo, kid, lease, what proof can I prepare for a marriage-based green card interview?
You should always prepare for a Stokes interview. So, 2 people separated. You have all these documents, great, but any fraudulent marriage can also prepare all that. In fact, we heard an officer say, just because you have a kid together does not mean your marriage is real.
That's crazy.
It's absolutely mind-boggling. In that specific context, it was an 8-month-old pregnant woman. And it was like, how can you say that? And the officer said, well, The kid is not born yet. There's no birth certificate. What if the woman is just pregnant with somebody else and you're just tagging along? We've seen, the officers say, you will be surprised at the length that fraudsters do to secure a green card. So there's so many things, the way they dress, the way the documents they present, to get, if you really want to compare, an EB-5 investment is $1 million to get a green card. If you want to fake a marriage, how much you spend and you can get a green card, well, then they're both green cards, right? And so a lot of people go through crazy depth to be able to get these green cards. Now, you have all these things, still prepare to be separated. And when you are separated, the officer will ask you guys different sets of questions and they will match them. And if it fails statistically, it becomes a bigger fraud investigation. Doesn't mean the case will be denied, but it becomes a much bigger fraud investigation opportunity. That's one of the most important things, right? Because it is, you prepare documents, you can prepare really well, and I could give you 100 other documents to prepare to prove your marriage is real, but there's nothing that quite beats a Stokes interview because it's just so hard to prepare for that. I could give you some example right here, right now. If the two of you are separated, if the officer asks, what's the last 5 trips you went on? Oh, you listed it out. No problem. What were the trips that you almost went on that you didn't go? Nobody just selects these locations together and there's no disagreement. Selecting which dinner place to go, you might have like all sorts of options, right? All right, you did go on these trips. I believe you. I see the hotel. I see the travel. But what were the trips that you almost went on that you didn't? What did you want? What did she want? Why didn't you do it? List that out and do it in 1 minute. Oh yeah, easy. She wanted to go Japan. I want to go Vietnam. I want to go, Spain, and she wanted to go London. And we settled in Switzerland, right? List it all out, and this is why. Because if it's real, you would be able to list it out and you'll be able to explain. The other person, list it out. And if it's way different, well, that's a problem, right?
Got it.
What's your favorite brands? List it all out. What's your favorite brands? What brands do you used to like, now you hate? That becomes a lot harder for the other person to guess. Both of you go work. Tell me about the work drama that the other person has. Who do they like? Who do they dislike? Who's their work wife? Who's their work husband? Who are you jealous of? Who are you not jealous of? List that out. Can the other person guess it correctly? These are things that are just nearly impossible to prepare in every single scenario, right? Nail clippers. Where are they in the house? Which drawer? Just a random thing that everybody should know if you really truly live together. But can you really memorize 1,000 things that is in a house? The dishwasher, detergent, nail clipper, right? The multiple laundry baskets. Where is the station, right? How many suitcases do you guys all have jointly together? It goes on and on and on and on.
What do you think some of the most common Stokes interview questions are?
They don't tell us. And they actually train the officers to say, think about yourself and come up with one every single morning and just use that. And the next day, do a different one, right? And again, to give these kind of examples, right? And what's the last argument you had with your spouse? Who won the argument? What were the 5 points, right? And so the officers use their own life experience as a basis and use that week's experience. And there's no way people can predict and to anticipate. But you don't have to get 100% correct, right? I think the passing rate, I believe it's like 70%. But if it's not a real marriage, if you don't know each other well enough, getting even 50% is nearly impossible, right? Your best friend, right? Just think about your best friend. It's impossible to do a Stokes interview, even with your best friend, let alone somebody who's not.
So how do you prepare for something like that?
That's why it is the ultimate test of whether or not a marriage is real. So if you just met, if you just got married, you go in, it's okay. You can challenge the officer to ask you a different question. That's permissible, right? So let's say you guys just got married, you guys submitted the paperwork, and within 3 months you get called to an interview, and now you have the Stokes interview, and the officer pulls you in and says, tell me about, the 10 best friends the other person has. Officer, we only met 3 months ago. I know right now, my spouse hangs out with these 4 people. We met, we had drinks. I know this is their background. I don't know them that well. We had, one outing together, and it was a bar. It was really loud. I just don't know that question. Can you ask me another one? Okay, sure. How long have you guys been living together for 3 months? Okay. Where are all these things located? Well, we just moved in together, right? Everything's still in boxes. We haven't put everything on. Can you ask me a different question? Sure. You could challenge the officer to give you one that is actually reasonable given your circumstance. Now, obviously, if you do that again and again, and the officer's like, man, I asked you 10 questions, you can't answer any of them. You know what? We could postpone this interview, and I'm going to hire a fraud inspection unit to go to your house, and your adjudication time, instead of 3 months, becomes 3 years. But that's what you signed up for, right? You got married real quick, you filed the case, prepare for a 3-year adjudication, So now, after 3 years, you guys are still together, file joint tax returns, then you get called into an interview 3 years later, ask the same questions, you pass with flying colors, you still get the green card, right? So these are things to kind of think about and prepare for.
So all that being said,
yeah.
What do you think the best way to prep for a green card interview is?
The best way, pretend, do a mock interview, use AI. Hey, AI, you are a USC officer doing the interview. Ask us 10 questions, and just do it again and again. Like, how do I prepare? AI can help you a lot. Obviously, you could pay a law office that does these routinely, but specifically, you want to hire, it's best to hire a law office that does it at your location, right? Because the way Miami USCIS officers are interviewing is different than LA, is different than New York, is different than Seattle. Find somebody who does these routinely, who have a lot of in-depth knowledge about what those officers genuinely care about, the timeline and the process, and practice with them at least once. It will, ease your nerves and improve you and help your case.
So do you think influencers will have problems renewing visas in the future, especially if they do get dinged from CBP for unauthorized
Absolutely.
work?
If you've already gotten dinged, renewing a visa becomes much more difficult. And but it completely depends on the influencer's background. Like I said, most people are not professional influencers, but that industry is growing so rapidly, right? There are so many people that their entire full-time job is just stand in front of the camera 10 hours a day advertising things. And then now you travel around the world, going to different locations to do that. And if the officer looks at your passport, it's like, wow, in the past year, you went to 10 different countries, you stayed in all these different places. What do? I look at your gear. I think you're not a real tourist, So it depends on your situation.
Is it still possible to do AOS with a U.S. son? U.S. citizen son?
Yeah. I don't see why not.
What are some other things you want to share, big takeaways from AILA this year?
So many good ones. I just think category-wise, I think USCIS is going to get a lot more strict in the next 2 years. I have absolutely no doubt about that now. Before, I was kind of like, okay, USCIS is getting stricter, memos are coming out, it could be a theatrical stunt. Donald Trump wants to prove that he's doing a lot in immigration regarding ICE. It's a lot of theater. They release all those memos, whether or not they're going to actually execute them, whether or not more memos are going to come out that's going to change the landscape. It could just be theater first 2 years, and then last 2 years he focuses on what he really wants to do. I don't believe that anymore after this conference. I believe immigration is going to get stricter and stricter. These memos that come out is going to have full implementation. I think USCIS and ICE is going to work much more closely together. I think people have to really prepare when AI adjudicates their case and when an inexperienced officer is doing it, and how you have to explain it to the officer. I believe motion to reopen, reconsider, and APA lawsuits in federal court is going to be much more important, because that's the only way to correct an agency that is led by Trump appointees working with ICE, with inexperienced officers. It's going to be a tough battle the next 2 years, and we'll see what happens afterwards. But the landscape of immigration, I think it's forever changed We're not going back to how it was, and this is the new era of immigration that we're stepping into.
Someone says, I've seen a few influencers admitting to work without authorization, and I was curious.
Yeah, great.
Well, not great for them. But,
No, yeah.
yeah, so what do you think the overall mood has been talking to attorneys here at this conference? What are kind of like the atmosphere?
You know, it's actually a lot better compared to last year. You know, I think most attorneys that survived last year, they come to this conference, they've already seen the crazy memos that go out, they've seen what's happening, and a lot of people have already adapted. And now they know that they have to keep on adapting, and they're learning and they're working with each other, and the atmosphere of this conference is more so, how can I help you? How can you help me? How can we work together? And I see nonprofits and NGOs working together. I see law firms and pro bono attorneys working together. I see vendors and attorneys working together. I see AILA is trying to do their best to try to change things, to make things better. So I feel like the fighting spirit has been like rekindled, as opposed to last conference was more like, this is crazy. We have to outlast, we have to out-survive. You know, we're tired, you know, a lot of complaints, just in survival mode. Whereas this time is more so like, let's fight this through. Because last year and this year, so many crazy battles have already been won. And so they see, even though there's a crazy, but there are solutions and victories could still be obtained. But there is that dark shadow looming where I see USCIS getting more and more difficult. But there's small slivers of pockets where bright lights are still shining that we say, okay, there's still maybe a pathway out. We need to get together and win.
What do you think those pathways are?
Oh, okay,
like, right?
Good. January of last year, humanitarian parole was canceled by an executive order. I was at the border the day after that, 2 days after the executive order was issued, and Customs did not let my client in through humanitarian parole, even though I spent almost a whole year prepping it and working it and getting the permission from Customs that we could do it. Canceled, and the whole year we didn't do a single humanitarian parole. Not that I know of. Maybe we did one or two, but I didn't know about it. And then in November of last year, the announcement went out that humanitarian parole can be done. It comes with a $1,000 fee, and on a case-by-case basis, not blanket humanitarian paroles. That opened up that sliver of light that, oh, it's starting again. The government just wants money, you know? Which, you know, for somebody who's been separated from their family for like decades, $1,000, yeah, it's worth it. I mean, a ticket to soccer is $1,000, right? So being able to be reunited with the family, or being able to see their father one last time before they pass away, right? Or, you know, being incorrectly, you know, removed, but the process is taking 2 years, and their baby is in the U.S., being able to come here and take care of their baby. You know, so many things that require humanitarian parole cancel for an entire year. Small light available November of last year. This conference, talking to Customs said, we are here, the law didn't change, humanitarian parole is still here, it's still being issued. We made a few mistakes charging people $1,000 when we shouldn't have charged them. We're giving refunds. But that tells me that it is working and it is possible, and it might get back to how things used to be. Maybe not as much, but humanitarian parole is still possible. People who desperately need it still can get it. It comes with $1,000 now, but it's still possible. And so that's just one example. There's so many, right? But going to these conferences, talking to the officers, you just don't know what you don't know. You don't know what can be done, what can't be done. And you don't have the endless resource to try everything, right? So once you figure out this could be possible, somebody else is doing this, it could work. Then when a client comes to you and you know they have the need, you could point them in the right direction, and then you do it together, and it might be possible, right? It's amazing.
Do you deal with asylum?
No, we do not do asylum or removal cases.
And if you had to sum up this year's AILA because we're almost at the end of our time. Sum up in, just a brief, put a cap on it. What would you say?
I would say, coming to this AILA conference, never before have I been so certain that you are not alone. Every
the loudest motorcycle I have ever heard.
I mean, on the point of you're not alone, a peloton of motorcycles were together and just really celebrating, and that's awesome, right? And again, you are not alone because AILA chapters are going to be stronger than ever because of the new bylaw changes. They don't have to take on some crazy national, some call it BS, but chapter AILA members have a lot more autonomy and freedom and ability without having so much responsibility. That is a plus, and that can help you, right? Vendors are here to help AILA national because they're now much more consolidated. They should be able to move a lot faster and push a lot further and do a lot more things much more quicker without all the bureaucracy. And there's a lot of bureaucracy even within AILA. So hopefully in the next few years, you will see this organization, the conferences, become a lot better to help you help the clients that you love.
Okay, that is our time.
Thank you, and I'll see you guys next week.